Okay guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you is how to work with a simple app but have a product in mind. Okay, so we're going to make this simple calculator application, and then for each episode I show on this application, I'm going to keep increasing the complexity until I'm satisfied. Okay, so we're going to start with something as simple as showing a calculator application that you can run from your terminal. Okay, let me call it calculator. All right, calculator application, and then what's it called? Calculator application. So I'll start with a very basic, simple version of it first of all. So the next episode, I'm going to increase the complexity and increase the number of channels until we're done. So by the time we take it to the web, then we know that then we can conclude the episode of making starting simple and making it into a product. Okay, so here I've created a simple file called calculator.py already showing on the screen here, and I'm going to create another file inside a folder. The folder would name it modules. So inside this modules folder, I'll create a file called operators.py. Okay, so inside operators.py, we're going to handle 5 to 6 operators. Okay, so these are going to be functions that the calculator application is going to be calling later on so that we can put the applications together quickly. So inside these operator files, I'm going to create the operators we're going to use for this simple application. Remember, the goal is to make it simple and then increase complexity to make it into a product. Okay, so we're going to cover 5 to 6 as operators. So we'll start with addition. So def addition, and we'll specify the operands you're expecting. Okay, now floats usually is the best for this kind of thing, so I'm going to use float type. Please remember that the assumption here is that you are a bit confident with whatever level you are in your programming experience. Okay, so if you need to know how to use Python, I think you should visit Code Academy. You can do a brush up on your Python application. By the way, the application is going to be based off Python, and Python is really very simple interpreter language that you can use to create any products that you like or that you can think of. Okay, so next operator is subtraction. So the same operators, operand A and operand B, and it's going to return a float type for us, right? Then multiplication, and just copy this right here. Okay, yeah, so return A times B, then division. Okay, A divided by B, and subtraction, multiplication, division, addition, remainder A modulus B, one more thing, square roots, SQR. So square root is not going to take 2 operands. Square root is going to take 1 operand. So we're going to say A double asterisk 2 square root. All right, and let's do cube roots. CUB cube roots. Okay, let's see. So return floats, take your operand, and so first of all 3. That's cube roots. Okay. So these are our operators for what's it called? These are operators for this application, right? So now that we've written the operators, now let's go back to the calculator file. So here is the calculator file. And in this calculator file, what we're doing is we're going to import the operators that we have from the modules folder and the operators.py file into the calculators folder. Okay, remember this is the very simple stage, so we're still on the simple things here. Okay, so the end game of this is to ensure that if you follow through from the beginning to the end, you'll literally be able to recreate this on your systems from wherever you are. So I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible so that you can follow through. Yeah, so here we have the calculator. So I'm going to say from modules dot operators imports. Now I missed a step here. Now that step is making these modules a package in Python. So to do that, I create a file. It can be an empty file and call it init.py. So this init.py has made that module a Python package. Okay, it's going to make it easy to refer to it and then take anything you want slash functions or import any functions or class or whatever method it is that we've done there. So I'll come here again, copy all of these functions and import them into the calculator file. So pardon me, and there we go. So like this, comma. Yes, one of the perks of using VS Code. Yeah, so like this, square roots. Yeah, so something like this is what I'm after. Yeah, so this, all our methods are now in the file. Then I'll create a main function to run this application. This application is not expected to return anything, so I'll pass the non function to it, a non-return type on the function. And let's pass for now and tell Python to start it when we run this file. I'll show you an example. Okay, so if name equals main, run this function for us, main, right? So I'm used to calling my functions as names. Okay, so one more thing, I like separating concerns, so let's do this. So usually 30 characters, so plus copy paste, then copy paste. Okay, so that's not what I'm looking for. So like this, paste. So this will tell me how to not exceed a particular line in coding. Okay, so from here, take this, it's a guard line. Actually, I do it subconsciously, I'm already used to it. And also it helps me kind of, block it together, or help me segment it together actually. And also helps me group similar functions together so that when you're reading them, you can ignore the rest and just focus within the borders, right? And then make sense of what you're looking at and then go to the next one, right? So from here, next, the functions that we need for this simple calculator are already here. So what I'm going to now do is start interacting with them. So the very first thing we're going to do for this guy is implement how we're going to get the operands for the functions. Okay, so in Python there's a function called input, and this input is used in getting information slash data from the terminal. Okay, so this stage of the application we're in is to run this application on the terminal and interact. All our interactions are going to be on the terminal for this phase. Okay, so with this, here's what I'm going to do. Input, enter, right? So enter a value or enter first operand. Okay, now this function can take value from the terminal and pass it to the variable. So let's say first operand, right? And then we have this. If I do print first operand, Let's see what it shows us on the screen. Right, so I'm going to go to my terminal, right, and then I'm going to go to the application folder, out, experiments, then simple calculator. So over here, I can now say Python. Let's see if py is gonna work. Okay, no py in my system, so Python 3 calculator. For your systems, you just have to do is type Python, depending on how you've configured the system. But for mine, for me to reference the Python interpreter, I need to put the 3 at the end of it. So for yours, it might be py or just Python, right? And then you go to the terminal, go to the folder where the application files are located, and then run the calculator file. Okay, let's not forget that line 25 and line 26 is how you tell Python to start the application. Very important. Okay. Now, if you notice in the operator side of things, I did not put any of those lines there. I just put my functions and I'm leaving it at that, right? If you run these operators .py from the terminal, nothing is gonna work. It won't even react. Okay. But if you run the calculator file, having said line 25 and line 26, is going to execute the main functions immediately for you. Okay, so in the example, I'm showing you the first things we've written down based on what's on line 16 and 17, and says enter first operand 9, press enter. Then you can see line 17 says print operand and print the string first operand. So you can see that this here is already giving us or allowing us to enter a value from the terminal, which is good, by the way. So let me show you a simple quick example inside the Python interpreter. Input, enter, right? FG here. Then it tells me input and I put 9, print it out. FG now has 8. So if you look at this value for FG, you see the two single quotes, the single quotes in between the 8 value, which means that is a string, all right? And for us to make sense of it in our calculator, we need to convert it to floats so that it can work with the functions that we've written or predefined already, okay? So here I have to restructure this input function so that I can get a coerced variable type. And the types I'm expecting is integers, floats, and strings. I'm expecting just these 3 types for this application. So at the top of main, I'm going to define a function called getInput, right? MSG message, which is going to be a string, and coerce, which will be defaulting to string, and is going to return either a string or an integer or a float. Okay, so with this, what I'm simply saying is input msg, right, plus cursor, let's say plus, I'll tell you what this is shortly, cursor indicator, right, to terminal data. Terminal data, please ignore the lines first. It's going to make sense in a short while. Terminal data equals input message plus cursor, right? And then coerce terminal data return. Okay, so this is the value of cursor, SOR, which is just a simple string to give us a demarcation on the terminal to tell us, okay, what you're typing here, this is it in clear terms. Like if you look at the terminal, when I did input, you see enter and the value I entered very close together. So in order to separate it on the terminal, you have to, put this extra space padding so that when it comes out on the terminal, it will come out really very clear. Like look at this example here. Enter space, right? Could even do like this, space colon this. Then you can see clear and distinct. And if I put 109, enter, passes the value to FG. FG here tells me that's a string of 109, right? Now back to the example. Cursor, well defined. I can, separate that, and come to input, separate input as well. Come to input and separate it, and then I'm already saying pass this, coerce it, and give me this, right? So first operand will now change to gets input. Enter first operand, right? And that gives me that. Then for me to kind of know what action slash what operator to use for this particular flow, this particular application flow, right? I need to first and foremost predefine my actions. Actions are how you can do addition, multiplication, subtraction, remainder, division, cube roots, and square roots. Okay, so actions in capital letter, I'm going to use a dict to store this, and suppose, right? Add is my addition. Pass it to the dicts as key and the function as the value, right? Then subtract. These are still basic examples, okay? Then what's it called? Subtraction as the function. Then multiply, MUL, multiplication. Then remainder, REM, and div for division, SQR for square roots, then cube for CUB for cube roots. Okay, these are my action definitions. So I come here, let me show you this quick snapshot. If you have a dict value, right? Let's say dict value is 4. And you specify a key in it. Let's say random number, right? You can quickly know if this key belongs to the 4 by doing the following. This be in 4, right? It returns true. So it means I can do as in 4, false. So that's how to quickly know if something belongs to a particular property, like a dict property actually. So from here, pardon more. From here, come back here. First things first, all of the functions that we have in operators have a first operand value, or more like the first argument value, okay? So with the first argument value, we know that only square roots and cube roots have just one argument. The rest have 2 arguments or 2 operands, okay? And they're all float values, okay? So we can say when the application starts, first collect the first argument or first operand. So let's change that to first arg. So this quickly changes color, which is good. Enter first argument, the first value, just in case. So enter first value, and then you see the value here. Then more importantly, coerce it to float. You get the difference. Now, action equals get input, enter action, or enter action, good word. Enter action, then if action in actions. You understand where this is going? Meaning, if we define any of the 7 keys in the action variable, then we're good to go. If not, then it's an error. Okay. So if this in this, you do what? You do one more check. If action in the 2 methods that require just one operand is your SQR and CUB, right? So if we have these 2 as our values, then we can immediately perform the action and say actions index action, then first argument results. We get the results. Action in SQL and CUB give us the results. Else, right? Results equals action, first arg, and I'm missing something, but I'm going to retrace back my steps. Second arg. Okay, so from here we can now say second, no, SCC arg get input, enter second value, right? And the one it coerced into float. When it coerced into float, and then you get first and second arguments, and then you pass into this function and get a result from the results of what we have here. Okay, we can using our discretion and say, okay, we've got these results, let us display. Okay, so usually this is display print results. All right, print results, which will tell you result value here, and then give us a new line. Okay, and give us a new line. So once you do this and you have a new line there with you, then you can quickly say action this print results, right? And line 52 is going to give you the answer to whatever it is you've passed. So let's quickly test two functions. Let's test Python calculator, right? Python calculator, enter first value. First value is 20. Action is MUL. Second value is 5. Result is 100. Okay, so notice that it's giving us 100.0, and that's because we are dealing with float values. Okay, so this is a very first thing a float value will give you, which kind of look like is the same thing. Yeah, the same thing with the integer values. Okay, only difference is it has decimal positions. So first try out, let's try addition. So let's say 90 add 100. We have 190. Let's try another one. Say 60 remainder 4 0, because when you divide 60 by 4 you get 15 remainder 0. So that 0 is the value of the remainder. Okay, so far so good. I've been able to break down a very simple application in less than 30 minutes, and also this is like the first basic calculator that you can build, and then from here you can then on increase the complexity. So I'm hoping to more or less shed light on how you can add simple structures to make this simple calculator into an actual product you can ship or sell or open source to anyone. Okay, so if you've been following us from the beginning, thank you for still staying by or hooking by. If you have any questions concerning this, please let me know. By the time we're done with the whole episode, I'll probably release the full Git repo version so that you can download it and then compare what you have with what I have, and then correct yourselves on where you're getting issues or errors. And post me if you even need some guidance of some sorts. Okay, you can quickly send you one or two emails. That won't hurt anyway. So let me know if you have any questions. So see you in the next episode. Cheers.